Right? So first and foremost, I give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Kakodash. We say double on Apostle, Elo to great Musan Aruba, our teachers, our apostles in truth, and we say salutations so the accuracy that push you with no truth and sincerity, day in and day out, and constantly in season or the season. We say Shalom. Once again, going into our video here, and let's touch on upon famines. Now what I've done for the past week or maybe week and a half, I've compiled a bunch of news, right, from different sources, right. As you can see, one of the articles, the first one you see on top of the screen is from Brick News, right. The other one is from Headquarters, right. Now different pages, and also from just random people sharing the input, and also sharing different sources that they themselves have been seeing when it comes to like the shortages of food, right? And also like many other stuff, like for example, and we were going to it here just now, when it comes to like the shortages of fertilizer that's increasing. And some of these fertilizers, from what I've been reading, is that it is a necessity for the majority of these big farms. There are also a lot of closures where farms are actually closing down. We have also seen, and again, as I said before, there's what I did over the past week was compile a lot of a lot of news, a lot of information about certain shortages, certain things that would cause a harmful effect to food distribution around the world, not just in America, not just in the Middle East, because a lot of Jakes, they believe that these things would never affect them. It will never happen to them. It will only happen on that side of the world. It will never come here, right? They think that they will just continue just to wake up one morning, make a phone call, and order fast food to straight to the house, right? Not knowing that these evils is it growing, right? Because every single day or every single other day, there's a lot of news coming out about shortages of food. A lot of news coming out about food, of energy crisis, which will cause a heavy or a hard effect on that particular part of the industry, right? And many other things that would happen, obviously, if it have a energy crisis. But the one I want to touch upon today is going into the food, right? Which I said before, it goes into what the famines, right? Now, before I continue into the video and bring forth some articles, I'll let me bring forth a scripture. This is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 16, and I'll read from verse 17. It says, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, right? So, when you look at the words, let me just look at the word sorrows. See, we got heavy. Sorrows meaning, right? So let's use the mother device to look it up on Google. It says sorrows, right? Sorrows are intense long-term feelings of sadness, grief, or regret, typically caused by loss, disappointment, or misfortune. As a plural noun, sorrows refers to events causing unhappiness, while as a verb it means to grieve, right? It says synonyms include sadness, grief, woe, right? Anguish, affliction, and heartache. And we know these are the things that are coming upon you all, right? Anguish, grief, woes, right? The scriptures mentioned what was written there in and there out, woes, mournings, right? That's in the book of Ezekiel chapter 2, right? But as you can see, when I hear the word sorrows, it does not mean something nice. It means something, as it says here, caused by loss, disappointment, or misfortune, right? It says as a plural, sorrow refers to events causing unhappiness, and as you can see, the events are brewing up that will cause sorrowful feeling, because why? You won't be able to get food the way that you want to, baby milk, rice, grain, or whatever it may be. It will be underneath a shortage, right? So that is not what I wanted to do, was look up the word as the scripture mentioned, 2nd Ezra 16, where it said the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine. So let's look at the word famine now, right? Famine meaning. So you say famine is a severe, widespread shortage of food causing mass starvation, malnutrition, and death. And the Lord, 2 Corinthians 15 mentioned, the Lord knoweth them that sin against him, and he delivered he them unto death and destruction. Right? Because again, Jake, this is one thing Jake continued to do is wickedness. All these things is happening around the world, taking place, and Jake still continue to be what abominable. Now we know the scriptures mention some made for honor and some for dishonor. These just created for that particular way, But you see what Jake mindset is on. They don't have time. They're not, being, as the scripture mentioned, to be occupied in prophecy, and that's how it's supposed to be. This is just a week or maybe two. Let me just say, maybe about 2 weeks I've been saving up articles, right? So it's not long, but it's maybe every single day, there's news coming out about food prices going up, shortages of food, fertilizer. Countries are already preparing for a mass crisis, a mass energy crisis, which will bring in shortages as well, right? It's not hard. There's so much news coming out that they can't miss it. But Jake did not occupy in his prophecies. But again, Second Ezra 15 verse 1, it said, behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy which are put in thy mouth, said the Lord. And that is what we're supposed to do, and that is what we have to be doing, speaking these words of prophecy unto them, rather they hear or forbear. Right? The book of Ezekiel tell you're washing our blood. Right? You give them that warning. You see any danger coming, and you're giving them that warning. That is what you're doing. Right? Jake had no excuse, because the same way they're scoffing against this word being pushed out, because you see them saying, we hear, you might see them on the streets. They might be in the comment boards, coming to scoff and scorn, saying, they're speaking about this the long time, the MOTB, or they're talking about that long time, the famine, or they're mentioning that long time. We still here, we eating, Jake wouldn't be even scornful, but at the end of the day, that is the job we set up to do. That is such an important thing, to prophesy, because you're telling them the prophecies that are about to take place. And one of those things is what? Famines, right? It says, so behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which are put in thy mouth, said the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Because these things is true. No matter how much they try to not believe, or they try to deny what it is the Lord said, these things are happening. There's no other book you could turn to and get these answers. There's no other book you could turn to and you could hear that it written, right? You could read that it written in that book, and it's happening today, right? The answers are there, right? When Jake asks, why these things happening? Because the Lord said these things are about to happen, right? So you say, fear not the imaginations against thee, and let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. So that is all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. Right? It says verse 5, it says, behold, said the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. And that is what the Lord bringing. Now, as you can see, one of the things mentioned in that verse 5 is what? Famine. Right? Famine is mentioned to take place. These is the things that the Lord sending. So you say, behold, said the Lord, nobody else. Right? The Lord. That's the next thing, Jake. They just want to give that glory when things like these happening to some other God. No, it's the Lord sending these things. You'll have to say, Satan. No, it's the Lord sending these things. Right? You say, behold, said the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world. Plagues. Right? It said the sword, famine, death, and destruction. So famine is mentioned in that. The Lord is sending these things upon the world. And that is what we see brewing up right now. Now, before I go back to the second, I just 16, let me read some of these articles. As it says, it's a bunch, right? So it says, UN warns closure of the Strait of Hormuz, right? Let's come up, pause. So continuing, UN warns closure of the Strait of Hormuz. It says will drive up food costs and worsen cost of living pressures. So when you're reading that, what do you expect? They say it will drive up food costs and worsen cost of living pressures. That is one of the things of famine. Because if you can't afford food and it done already, one of the things that I mentioned is inflation. There's also, when it comes to like the job like the employment industry, it's as at its worst, right? Literally, people ain't working, right? They're not working, so they're not getting the flow of money that's supposed to have. There's also gas, energy, these things are raising, which is causing a heavy, how to put it fair, a heavy um back a backdrop of all these things, right? So with all these things raising, people not working, shortages coming, what they feel going and happen, right? What you feel going and happen. So that way it will drive up food costs and worsen cost of living pressures. And it's already bad for some people. So imagine when these things get worse. Now, again, when you read 2 Ezra 16, it tells you that men will invade each other's houses and so forth. And these are the kind of things that is going to happen in that soon to come. Because again, evils is increasing. But let me just read some of the comments here. So it says, so this puts mark, why don't they condemn the US for Trump for this? Country should tell Iran and countries should tell Trump and Bibi to give into Iran demand. So some people going against it because no, when they hit a man belly, right? All of a sudden he might be bad, he might be brave, but once somebody started to hear food becoming short, they start to activate. They might bend. That is one of the way the enemies as well. That is one of the way they catch Jake. If they want to get them into to do something, they do what the food. They touch the food, take away the food, and so forth. We saw that with with the lockdown. There was a video where this Edomite was on a news with a hamburger in his hand. He was talking about, I know you guys want this hamburger too. I know you guys want to eat this hamburger. And I can't remember if you take a bite or not, right? Okay, in them fast food is the kind of stuff it have in those things. But he was like, I know you guys want this. I know you guys want this food. I know you want to go back to going and buy this food, right? Because they know that, one thing a man loves is his belly, right? He say if you all want to go back to normality, go and take the job, so you can go back and buy your food. No, it goes to show how important this food is, right? Now we hearing about shortages. So when you look up the word again, that's going back to Google, right? Because I just want to finish up the meaning of the word famine. It's a famine is a severe, widespread shortage of food causing mass starvation, malnutrition, and death. Right? Now you start to see that with the effects of what famines has caused. Right? The mass starvation, meaning you wouldn't be able to get food, and we know Jake can go an hour without eating. Right? Malnutrition, you start to see how it does affect your body, right? And death, obviously. Right? When we can't get food, some people wouldn't be able to survive that. It says it's better to die by the sword than by what? Than by famine. Right? It says usually declared when 20% of households face extreme food shortages, 30% of children suffer acute malnutrition, and mortality rates double. Often a man-made crisis. What? Often a man-made crisis caused by conflict or political instability. It is the most extreme form of hunger. And this is what we see. What did they say here? UN warns closure of the Strait of Hormuz will drive up food costs and worsen cost of living. So what is caused by conflict or political instability, and that is what we're seeing, right? What if it going to happen? Some of these countries, they actually depend on the other countries to deliver food to them. So imagine when it can't go out, what is going to cause, right? It says usage examples. The region is facing a severe famine due to prolonged drought and conflict. Many people died of starvation during the Great Famine. It says international aid was dispatched to prevent further loss, right? So this is just some of the things I have on Google here. It says causes, right? Causes, the key aspects of famine, causes. Primarily driven by human-made factors such as war, conflict and economic collapse. And so I believe one or two of the articles I have here as well too, right, is going into how bad the economy is. This is something that's been talked about. The market right now is the most manipulated market ever, right? And the reason why it's moving up, and we know it's out of control because the earth is given the hands of the wicked. We know the Lord do all these things, but who running this thing here is the wicked. Now we know they control the market and so forth, so they could do as they please, dropping it, raising it, however. But you could see it is not stable right now. It's one of the most unstable markets ever from what I was reading, right? So it says an economic collapse rather than natural disasters alone, right? So it goes to show that what they're telling you is some of the things that could cause famines, right? And right now, basically, majority of these things is happening right now, right? So let's read this and then I'll read this person comment, right? Matter of fact, I don't need to have this here because it's basically the same thing. It say, Iowa farmer, we have had this huge jump in fertilizer prices because of this conflict, with 30% of the fertilizer coming through the Strait of Hormuz. We've only been in conflict for 12 days here, and our fertilizer costs have jumped 77%. Right? So let's
30% of fertilizer, those that need to buy are hurting pretty bad because we've had this huge jump in fertilizer prices because of this conflict. And, with only about 30% of fertilizer coming through the Strait of Hormuz, that's, if you divide that out per day, that's about 0.09% of the world's fertilizer coming through there. And even if the U.S. only uses 30% of that, which I think is probably a really high number, that's 0.03% and per day. So we've only been in conflict for nearly 12 days here, and our fertilizer costs have jumped nearly 77%, and our corn price has only gone up by 5%. So we've got some real challenges here ahead of us.
So let's imagine that was only 12 days, right? So this video was posted when it was 12 days. This was March 11. As I said before, I was building up videos, compiling them to do this one video, right? Because there was so much of things coming out. I was like, you know what? Let me just wait it out and then do one big video with a set of articles with it, right? And from since then to now, it's only gotten worse. As he said, that it's 77% raise, and some of them can't even keep up with that skyrocketing price, right? Some of the farms, they themselves will close down because they can't keep up with the price, or they are not getting the products to make the plants actually grow. Because now, if you know anything about farming, the chemicals that they use, the plants actually need the chemicals. It's like a mandatory thing. The plants need the chemicals to survive, right, or to grow. It's not like long time whereas you can just plant something and it will grow. It need it. That's how they're making the GMO, genetically modified food and so forth, the plants, the seeds, and so on, right? But as he said, 30%, so it has jumped to 77% in 12 days, and it's only getting worse. And I don't know if I have that particular article saved, but there was an article stating that the longer this thing drawn out, is the worse it's going to affect every single thing, and we will show some of that just now, right? It says Southeast Asian nations are telling citizens to work from home, encouraging carpooling or cycling, and implementing 4-day weeks, and promising increased spending on energy subsidies in an effort to cut oil use, right? So you see in countries, all right, so this is another one here. The war in Iran is creating a fertilizer crisis, right? It's this person might call it a week ago, and now lack of Gulf fertilizer, collapsing demand for the food exports from Gulf. 30% of Brazil food export shipping insurance rates being passed through the entire portfolios is hitting Brazil at worst possible time, especially, right? So you see, it's building up that fertilizer crisis, right? You see, if the world is so fragile that the disruption of traffic in one body of water threatens world stability, we should probably diversify that supply chain anyways. But there was already explaining. Some of these people are just talk on the internet. They don't understand how shipment may work. That a ship can't can change its course is because it have a certain amount of fuel it have to go with, or it have to take, basically they can't leave that route or that route that they take, right? It says fertilizer shocks usually end up as food inflations months later, and that's what it did. As again, some of these article here was weeks ago. What should I say? Well, days ago, maybe weeks ago. I should leave it as weeks ago. So it's only gotten worse. It say Indians rush to secure cooking gas amid fears of a liquefied petroleum gas (LPG) shortage as concerns over energy supplies grow due to the ongoing crisis in the Middle East. Again, you're seeing countries going through it, right? Think of this. So let's go back to the second Ezra, chapter 16. Right, and let's go back down now to verse 18. It said, the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? And there's a question mark. What it is you're going to do when these evils come? Because if you don't have the Lord, then hey, ask yourself how you're going to survive Jake whole dependency is on the government. When you hear Jake talk, right, they put the whole trust, the whole faith in the government, especially Esau. You know, Jake is operate for Esau. They love the white man. You understand? So when them that hope and help, both shall fall. Right? So going down again, it say verse 19, it say, behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. Right? These things are sent for amendment. So let's look at the word amendment. Amendment. Right? Amendment. An amendment is a formal written change, addition, or correction. Or is what? Or correction. So he says this means it's a correction made to legal document, contract, or law, such as constitution, to update or improve it. Right? Wow. So it's written it's for correction. Right? Right? So going back now, it said, behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Right? It said, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And yeah, that is how Jake is today. If Jake now, they could jump on a plane and go to four different countries for like $300. You know, it's cheap. You know, they could go Mexico, they could go Panama, they could go, you know, plenty of these countries cheap. They could go and buy, food, and it will be, matter of fact, I'm gonna look up victuals meaning. I was just going into like how nice it is. So victuals, it says victuals, right? It says are food supplies or provisions typically prepared for consumption, often implying a large quantity or essential rations for a journey. It says synonyms include food, provisions, rations, eatables, and stores. It is commonly used in an old-fashioned, rustic, or humorous context to mean sustenance. So these sustenance, right? It says such as mess for victuals, right? It's so victuals. So we go back to food supplies, provisions, things that they need. It's as it says stores, rations, So let me just leave it as like food, right? And let's go back to the second Ezra 16. It say, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon the earth that they shall think themselves to be in a good case, and that is where it is. Food is very cheap right now. You could go in the grocery and you could, we no, hey, again chicken, again this, again that, again rice again. No, and they believe that just because these things easily accessible right now, that they think that, as I say here, they shall think themselves to be in a good case, whereas these things is brewing up in the background, right? So that way it say, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion, right? So let's read it over. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth. So here we say evils grow upon earth, and that is what we're reading about. Watch how much things over the past few weeks has been happening, and it's only getting worse. So the reason why I'm going back down, right, is because I know I had some earlier saved, but when we go up, you start to see more news coming out. So let's read this one here, and then I'll go up. Right? It says Sweden's government announces it will amass stockpiles of essentials like fuel, food, and power generators in case of crisis or war, allocating 150 million to local communities for preparedness. Right? So let's go up again. So let's go back up. So so this was where I start with the BRICS news, and let's go back up. It said the whole country of Brazil is not exporting grains now. Now this comes from this here. It's a breaking another first of my 20-year career. Brazil exporters have gone no bid. Never seen Brazil origination go no bid in my life, and I don't think anyone else. It say please explain to us in details what is being sold and what. So this person says, Grok says in grain trade in Brazil, origination refers to exporters buying soybeans, corn, and other grains straight from local farmers producers. This post means Brazil exporters have been withdrawn all bids offers to buy from farmers right now. Zero purchases happening. A 20-year veteran says he's never seen it. Why Brazil's 20 harvest record is huge, right? It's 178 million tons of soybeans alone per USDA corn forecast, plus big corn. Oversupply, harvest season, port, local logistics jam on certain global demand. China slowdown fears, Middle East tensions hitting trade routes, right, have frozen the market. So it's getting worse. It's continuing to get worse and worse and worse, right? They say exporters are waiting for even lower prices before buying. Farmers stuck with grain, local basis price tanking fast. Rare stress signaling otherwise steady flow market, right? So it's getting worse. Let's go up again. It says here, this person mark. Wow. Did they leave this article, man? This was going into the chip. Wow. So deleted. So that article was deleted. But it says we will have a massive hunger event if fertilizers don't arrive soon to the farms. 30% to 50% of the go through the street, right? Right. See if I catch it. Can I catch it? Nah. That page is deleted, but it was going into like chips and so forth, and that is one of the articles. But nonetheless, it say Slovakia's largest fertilizer producer said it's curbing ammonia output after natural gas prices surge, in another sign that the Middle East conflict is starting to hit the industry in Europe. Yeah. So it say what? It say 2 Ezra 16 verse 21, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. And we've seen that. We've seen all these happening right now. So let's go up a little bit again. U.S. farms are disappearing at an alarming rate. The number of U.S. farms fell by 15,000 in 2025 to 1.87 million, the lowest since the 1850s. This marks the third annual decline and the sixth over the last 7 years. Over this period, the number of farms has dropped. They said at the same time, total farmland has fallen 24.9 million acres to 874 million, the lowest since the 1910s. Meanwhile, farm bankruptcy filing surge. Oh, wow. So the farm industry is literally crashing as we speak. It says U.S. farms are in a long-term decline. Now, we also know that BlackRock, right, Palantir, and these people are buying up these farmlands, right? They're causing these problems so they can come and own it. So now when crisis hit, you would have to come and get from them. So you see how it goes, right? So as you can see, the farms itself is on a decline, right? So this person marked this was intentional, and it was, right? Take one pause. Right, so continuing. No, this is not true. It says so this person put fertilizer prices announcement coming soon, right? Same thing we have just read just now. It said these big fertilizer guys know something is coming for this is much insider selling is going on. So that's what I was talking about the market when it comes to like certain things, right? Now keeping up to mark with some of the things happening when you talk about the inside is because hey, you saw know what it is they're doing it for. And it begins. Sri Lanka declares Wednesday's off as Asian countries try to conserve fuel. So a crisis, right? So eventually it's gonna get worse and they might have to go. It might have to stay home. This video, no, I don't want this again. The UFO was a Cuban invasion. So Cuban invasion. Say breaking. China has suspended fertilizer exports while farmers in the United States face shortages. The Chinese government has instructed exporters to halt overseas shipments of nitrogen and potassium fertilizer blends. So let's read this here. They say China's fertilizer export hold. The thing I fear has begun. This thing, it's NK compound fertilizer, but Japan relies on imports from China for 75% phosphorus and 25% urea. So if this gets stopped, Japanese agriculture is done for, and the Japanese people will be on the brink of starvation, famines. Now, I also want to mention something with this Japanese thing, because they right now panicking when it comes to like that because they don't have the how to pay it fair. Their energy, if energy had a cut off, they have a certain amount of months that they could run on, not years. A certain amount of months, right? Alright, I'm gonna take off this. Boycott. Right, so Hong Kong just suspended poultry imports from parts of Florida, Wisconsin, and Indiana over H5N1 bird flu. So while in the midst of the shortages coming from the Hamas, there's also pestilences that actually destroying food stock as well. So let's read a little further down. 2 Ezra 16 verse 22 say, for many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine. It didn't say some. It didn't say a little bit. It said, for many of them shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. So even if you escape the hunger, there is something waiting for you, right? So that's how bad it's going to be. That it say, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, right? The shortage or the scarcity of food. So let's continue reading. It say, so this one was just one day ago. So we went from this casual, and then we jumping up here to where it starting to become serious, right? It say Iran war may push 45 million people into acute hunger by June. Wow. It say Iran war may push 45 million people into acute hunger by June. So you see how bad it's getting? Right? The global supply chain is going to collapse. The just-in-time logistic networks that was strained during the, obviously I don't want to mention that word, but you know what it is, was simply snap this time. Africa was starved first. They always saying that because he so like to be the last, right? It's then Asia, immense population pressures from starving people will cause civil disorder, then violence, governments will collapse. Those that don't turn inward on themselves will turn outward at each other. Economies will shatter one country at a time, and the fall will spread like contagion across the globe, infecting more in turn. And which is right, because now let's go down a little bit in the 2 Ezra 16. It say, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them, for the earth shall be wasted, and the city shall be cast down. Right? You say, there shall be no man left to till the earth and to sow it. The trees shall give fruit, and who shall gather them? The grapes shall ripen, and who shall tread them? For all places shall be desolate of men, so that one man shall desire to see another and to hear his voice. Right? I want to get something here. I'm going to go down a little bit. So jump to verse 33. You say, the virgin shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The woman shall mourn, having no husbands. The daughter shall mourn, having no helpers. In the war shall the bridegrooms be destroyed, and the husband shall perish of famine. Hear now these things and understand them. Right? Be ye servants of the Lord. Right? And I want to go down a little bit. This is verse 46, 2 Ezra 60, verse 46. You see, for strangers shall reap their fruits and spoil their goods, overthrow their houses, and take their children captives, for in captivity and famine shall they get children. Right? So you see how bad it going get. Men go be invading. Right? I want to go down a little more. Let's see if I get to see a quick invading. Right, this is the book of 2 Ezra chapter 15, and I'll read from verse 15. I'll read from 15. It says, for the sword and their destruction draw it nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their action shall stand in their power. Hey. So that's going into straight what this guy is talking about. You know, hey, when these things hit, we feel a man going to care about who he is. No, the man will eat. He will give children food. You might be that food, because the scripture mentioned about cannibalism as well too. You know, so let's go back a little bit. So go back. It says what? Iran war may push 45 million people into acute hunger by June. So yeah, so that is, it had some in between, but you can see how it's only getting worse, and it's only going to continue to get worse, right? The end is being made manifest, right? So with that, once again, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakodash. We say double on Apostle Elders, a great Muslim Ruba, our teachers, our apostles in truth, and we say salutation to the Akimus, they push you with truth and sincerity, day in and day out, and constantly in season of the season. We say Shalom.